Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I got cough drops now, but today is October 2nd, and I just finished like 5 minutes ago watching Friday the 13th Part 2. Um, we're making our way down the list, that's for sure. But um, I like this one more more than the second one, or more than the first one. I think that's not controversial to say, not an argument, not. I think this one does better at having the Friday the 13th feel. And part of that is because, Jason's in it. He might not be donning the iconic hockey mask. I missed. Sorry. He might not be donning the iconic hockey mask. However, the bag over the head's still kind of cool. It's not optimal, especially with the one hole for him to look through. But um, no, this movie, I care. Like I think it's very good. I think it does well at making you care for the characters. It does well at having this sort of scarier feel, sort of this more you don't know what's going to happen type feel. And I think a lot of that second part with like you don't know what's going to happen, you're kind of unsettled, is through the camera work. I think the camera work in this movie is excellent. I think that a lot of the time it treats the camera as its own character rather than this omniscient like viewing thing. Because we see the camera move a lot of the time slowly towards a character, or we see it as perspective and eyes of another character. And I think that it lends itself very well to the genre and to what this film is trying to portray. Um, and especially when we get those fake outs of, I think Vicky is like in the car looking around and we have the camera like slowly going and we're like, okay, we're in the eyes of Jason and she's about to die. And then it pulls away. And that's not what's happening. But that happens with Vicky, that happens with Terry, that happens with a lot of characters where we think that we are in the eyes of Jason or in the eyes of whoever the killer is, and we think we're like that character's about to die, and then it doesn't happen. Or something else happens, or blah blah blah. Or it is revealed that it is, one of the other characters instead. And I think that this movie subverts those expectations pretty well. I think it does a pretty good job at doing that. I'm looking at the list of characters right now just because it's hard to remember all their names, especially when they aren't spoken very often or there's just a lot of it's hard to like distinguish the campers sometimes. But I think this movie is very good. Not okay. This movie is not very good. This movie is good. It's a golden age slasher. It has all the tropes. It has, everything that it needs going for it. It finally has Jason in it. Now granted this movie still has it kind of begins the super sexualized nature of these movies. I don't know if we can like actually attribute this film with that, but I think that is definitely an aspect of it. Because, we see like the first time we see Terry is the camera's focused on her ass. Or Jeff and Sandra are having sex and then they both die at the same time. You know, or even like Vicky with the whole like underwear scene and all that stuff. And so I think that this movie may start the over sexualized nature of it, and I guess that's like it's sort of a nitpick, but it's also sort of a like you can do more with these films. You don't have to make it tied to sex, which like I guess if you think about it like psychologically, it could be like the death of them is the death of their childhood. And because they're exploring these like sexualized themes, it's more so a commentary of growing up and having this past version of you die. That could just be me super overthinking it, and giving more credit than it is, with because the director or whoever could have just been like, "Hi, we want people naked and having sex, and then they're gonna die." That's it's probably more like it. But when I think about it, I'm trying to think of like, okay, why? What could this represent? How could this be good? But looking at the characters, I don't care for Terry or Scott. You know, Terry's naked a bunch, cool. Scott seems like an asshole. I cannot give a shit. The deputy doing his job. Jeff and Sandra. I like Jeff and Sandra because they are the main, mainstay couple of. They do everything together. They try to explore Camp Blood, what they call it now, which is funny in and of itself. But they explore that, and then they die together in bed. And I think that's like a really nice touch. Um, my favorite campers are Mark and Vicky. And I think they're my favorite couple in this film and in most of the Friday the 13th films. Because what they have feels genuine and it feels real. And when you have a bunch of not child, young adult actors in these films who are kind of just whatever, they're meat for the movie to slaughter. But Mark and Vicky, whoever their actors and actresses are, do a very good job of making that feel like genuine, making that relationship feel real. And um and I don't know. I like their banter, I like their teasing, I like the build up and like them just hanging around each other, and I think that's all very good. And so I think the movie does a very good job at their relationship. And then I really like Mark because he's a guy in a wheelchair, but that's not his character. The movie could have done very easily of just, we're using this guy in the wheelchair. We're going to use him as the butt end of the joke. We can send him to the bar instead of Ted, and Paul. We can send Mark to the bar and make him like a bumbling fool of himself, and use his wheelchair and his crippleness, as a joke, rather than, and make that his character rather than having him be himself. But this movie doesn't do that. It doesn't focus on him being a cripple. It doesn't focus on him being paralyzed. It's a one-off line where Vicky asks him like, "Hey, what's going on?" And that's a very cute scene. It's like, why? Like, what happened? Can the other things work? I think that's funny. I think that's cute, and I think I'm very. I think it's very good that this movie doesn't focus on that part of Mark. It doesn't use his disability as a means to poke fun, but instead gives him his own character. And it also kills him off in a normal way. It doesn't, like, what movie is it where there's someone in a wheelchair and then the killer just sends them out of the wheelchair and they're crawling away. This movie could have done something like that where he falls down the stairs and then he can't get away. No, he's murdered like everyone else. He's just blade to the face. And that's gruesome. That's gory. That's like, whoa. But it's treated as another character, and it's not treated as someone with a disability. And I really appreciate that this film does that, because these older films are very problematic in that sense. And even like modern films. But this film doesn't focus on that part of Mark, and that's what's... I'm very appreciative of that. And then I think Vicky... I don't know. Like, she's cool. She's pretty. So, like, obviously, cool. But, yeah, it's her her and Mark are my favorite like counselors in this group. I really like Ted. I think Ted's funny. I'm glad he survives. I'm glad he stayed at the bar. Go Ted. And then I think it's also very sweet that this movie has Paul and Ginny both survive at the end, or insinuates that they both survive. I don't know if I think Paul survived. In my head canon, he survived. And then Ginny brings in her. I really like how at the beginning she's introduced and it's immediately like, use your child psychology to fix the car. But then she uses her child psychology to save herself. That works well. That's great. Good job. Great. Good callback film. And then using the psychology of her character that she's learning to save herself and fuck over Jason. Like, snaps. Like, sick. Great. Good job. You know, I think a lot of the characters in this film are their own character, and they just like, yeah, they fall into the bubble of camp counselor that's gonna die, or hypersexual young adult, or camp leader, or whatever. But they still stand on their own, and I think that's what makes this film better than the first. Makes this film better than the first one. I hate the beginning. I hate the beginning so much. Why are you gonna have her survive the first film and then immediately kill her off in the second one? But then also have all of the flashbacks from the end of the first film. This movie came out a year after the first film did. You don't need to remind people like, hey, this is what happened. This movie was very polarizing when it came out. People remember what happened. So you don't need to spend the first 10-15 minutes of the film not only having her have a nightmare and show scenes from the first film, but then also kill her. That character, she didn't deserve that. She was done dirty. I think it was just a cop out of like, we don't want her in this film. We want to pivot towards a different group, and we don't want this to be like Halloween, where it focuses on Jamie Lee Curtis's character. No, we want this to focus on Jason, and so it could just be like that way of like, let's get rid of her so we can have fresh new blood and everything. Yeah, it's fine. Good on Jason for moving the kettle off the stove. That was cool. Good job. And then, oh, long live Muffin. Muffin is eternal. Muffin can't ever die in my eyes. True hero of this film, as well as the chair. That rocking chair saved her life, Ginny's life, because she was fucking dead. She was dead to dust, bro. And then the chair slips, So I think the chair's the true hero of this film, and then everyone else, side characters. But, yeah, I don't know. It's still I think it's still like a mediocre film, but it has a lot going for it, and it's better than the first one. And I'm less conflicted on this film compared to how I am on the first one, and I think that's because of the characters, and not because of the over-sexualization of the characters, but rather the characters themselves, because Ginny and Paul are both memorable. Ted is funny and memorable. Vicky and Mark's relationship you can appreciate, and then Mark's characterizations, you can appreciate. And then it also just has a cute dog in it. Sometimes that's all you need. But, Friday the 13th, part 2. Still going on the binge. I'll have to I strayed away yesterday with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Straight away again tomorrow because I have to watch Pan's Labyrinth for class, which I'm very excited for. I haven't seen that film in a while. I watched that film when I didn't care about movies, and I still liked it then. So this one I'm looking forward to rewatching it again. But No, I think this film has good things going for it. The explosion title card is funny. The end last second jump scare I just could live without. I'm not a big fan of those. I think they're cop outs. But um yeah, no, it's October 2nd at 5:02. I started this film around, and yeah, that's about it for me. I'm won't have time to watch another film today. I probably shouldn't, because I have events I have to work and homework. But it's almost fall break, so less. And I think I'm doing better compared to last night. If you saw the Ferris Bueller thing, so um, but yeah, um, I would recommend people watching this one. In all honesty, I think it might be better. In my opinion, it's better than the first one. Still worse than Halloween. Still worse than Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But out of the two Friday the 13th films that I've reviewed so far, this one's my favorite. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Oh, I'm Connor, by the way. I'm a senior in college. Um, and am trying to pursue a master's in mass media. I'm currently studying computer science. Um, and I've realized how much film means to me and media as a whole. And I created this channel so that I can talk about it. But yeah, I realize I haven't like truly introduced myself. So obviously, you could probably tell that my name is Connor from the channel name. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far, and I hope you have a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is for you. And I hope that you can get some peace of mind. But yeah, thank you. Bye.